Well, we'd like to welcome you all back to Trampled Underfoot Podcast, starring Mark Lindsay and I, Eloy Escagedo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I'll tell you this.
Okay.
I was running low on supplies, so I decided to, and I'm a hermit anyways, but I decided to go and get some food today, supplies and whatnot. And so got in my car, drove to the supermarket, and got out of my car and walked through the doors. And then the cart guy, the guy that does all the, the work of gathering carts and this and that, he says, no. And I said, whoa, what do you mean no? And he says, he had a mask on. And I look around and everybody's got masks.
Uh-huh.
Everybody's got masks. And I'm like, I try to figure out what to do. So I go like this, how about this? And, as I did that, I said, I'm going to have to pin my nose to the up shirt throughout the whole walk. Is that going to be a thing? And he said, no, you can't. You need a mask. You need a mask. Don't you have a mask? And I said, no, not really. I don't have a mask. And then, I walked out to the car and I looked through, the car for all sorts of things and stuff. And I had little papers and like cables and all. And I'm like, damn. And I went round back, opened up the hood. It's a hatchback. And I started looking through and, I've got like just equipment stuff, like, tools and whatnot, stuff like that. I'm like, what the, holding up a wrench to my nose. Should I plug both of my nose? And because I don't want to see, the whole bit is I don't want to go drive back home, get some whatever and put it on and then come back. I just want to solve my problem. So I'm looking through and then I see this long, like, I guess you'd call like drape for, whatever, a tablecloth type thing. And I pulled it out and said, you know what, I'm going to tear this puppy up and but it was some heavy duty stuff. And I'm like, well, that's not, and I didn't have a knife actually. And I was like, oh, well, and I said, well, this is a nice, tablecloth, but I need that now. So what's a little corner going to bother? But I said, okay, let me put that away. And then I'm looking through and lo and behold, I found the solution. I had some of those foam knee pads with the Velcro strap for the knees. I took one of them, I put it on my mouth, did the Velcro. It fit perfectly, except that it was kind of high on the eyes, so I could only see like limited. And I walked throughout the whole store with that darn thing on, dude. That was some heavy duty stuff, man.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Improvise, adapt, overcome. Well, in the Army, we would call that field expediency. You got to get it done. And if it's stupid, but it works, it isn't stupid.
That's what happened,
dude. I was just joking the other day about, wonder what they would do if I went walking in the store with my respirator on. And then the more I thought about it and the more I looked around, I said, absolutely nothing. Nobody would even give me a second look.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part of this whole thing. We haven't gotten to that point. They're not telling people, no, you have to be wearing a mask or anything. We haven't gotten to that point.
So I don't know if it was store policy or if that guy was wigging out.
Yeah.
But if it's store policy, then I understand. But if it was his wigging out part, because here's what happened. When I did that and came back through and started going down the aisles, I saw a handful of people without freaking masks. I said, well, mother trucker,
take it off.
Well, no, I kept it on because I didn't bother to ask, and boy, I'll just tell you this. It's pretty tough to shop with knee pads on your face. I just want to put that out there.
You need to put that on a t-shirt and brand it right now.
And I'll tell you,
it's tough to shop with knee pads on your face.
And I'll say this one other thing, Mark. I don't think that in the history of the English language, I dare anybody to find a source. I am the first human being on this planet Earth that has used the sentence, knee pad, whatever it is I said before, because I forgot it already. But the use of knee pads on your face and shopping, that combination is, quote me on that one, folks.
It's not, it's hard to shop with knee pads on your face. I'm going to remember that one.
Never been used before in the history of the English language.
I think that should be the title of this episode.
Oh, well, there you have it.
Yeah, no, I really do. I mean, now don't get me wrong. You won't find anybody who loves fried chicken and biscuits more than me.
Yeah.
But I think that it's hard to shop with knee pads on your face. Well, that just kind of blows out everything I had to say. Now, we haven't, like I said, we haven't gotten to that point at all. But they did here in the state of Oregon. I think I've mentioned this before. It's illegal to pump your own gas. You can't pump your own gas. Insurance liability laws and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But for the first time since we moved back up here in 2012, we went and got gas yesterday. I pumped my own gas in the state.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They have suspended that law. How, I don't know. But they have suspended that law because the gas station attendants come into contact with so many people over the course of the day. They just said, nah, not going to do it. So what the attendants are doing now, I have no idea. But I do know they're not pumping gas. So that brings back the point that I was making a few weeks back. If it's that easy to suspend it, why do we need it?
I'm with you 100% on I just, not to harp on it, but I want to, and I did think about your statement earlier on today, actually, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. I actually listened to a lot of people, obviously not all the time, but there's certain things that when a point is made, mm-hmm. It's not like I don't disregard, I ponder the thing, and you did come up in my thoughts today about that very same thing that you had said. And in fact, you know what I was thinking? I was thinking of the different conversations we've had in the past through all this time. And it's a funny thing, we agree in many areas, and some areas we might not be perfectly aligned with, say, but there's a variation within that. But for the most part, I'd hate to include myself saying level-headed, but whatever. That's my personal thought. But I thought, the excessiveness and that same thing you said, and I said, well, that's totally true. There's all these redundancies, that are redundancies, and it just looks silly.
Yeah. Well,
it looks silly at this point. If you really think about it, it's silly, and not silly. It's also cost not effective. Let's say.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff is useless. A lot of it is just frivolous. But I can see there is a point to some of it. Like, for instance, I made it no secret. I want to build a new shed. I want to put up one in my backyard, and meanwhile, back at the ranch, I also need to run a French drain out of my backyard out towards the front. Mm-hmm. So I did the thing that we're all supposed to do: call before you dig. I didn't actually make a phone call. I went through the state has this clearinghouse basically website. Okay. You put in all your information and everything, and they notify all of the utilities in your area. And they've got 3 days to come out and mark all the utilities. Well, that's been happening, started this morning, and 4 of the 5 utilities that service this neighborhood have come today.
Oh, wow.
And I'm glad that is a requirement, because my electrical service that runs from the transformer out in front of my house up to our meter is about 2 feet over from where I thought it would be. But he was out there with his equipment and everything, had his little charts, and he had his little roll it on the ground and find it thing, marked it all out for me, put a couple of flags up there, and I knew exactly where it was. Okay. And that's fantastic. I like that. Found out there are no natural gas pipelines at all on our property. None. So, okay, cool.
So why all the taps all along the exterior walls, right?
Yeah, there isn't even any of that. There isn't even
I
any
was just making it
provisions for
funny.
gas service. But yeah, so but so that system does work, and it does work for you. But I mean, some of this other stuff, come on, we're supposed to be adults. We can pump our own gas.
Well,
And
anything sounds reasonable, and anything does service or you can pick anything, does have an end result of in one way or the other benefiting somebody.
Yeah.
But that doesn't justify its use in the context of,
Sure.
what we're talking about. But yeah.
Oh, sure. But I mean, but when you're talking about something as simple and silly as pumping your own gas, there's absolutely no reason to have a law that says you can't do it.
Oh yeah, it sounds extreme.
Yeah, but it's always been that way. I mean,
Yeah.
the first time I remember anybody pumping their own gas was when we were living in California. And one gas station near us, I was 15 years old, went all self-service. And I'd never heard of that before. You can pump your own gas. They let you run their equipment,
Yeah.
But I was a kid. What do I know?
It's so time consuming, I would assume, because I mean, it's like,
it is.
Over here, you show up, there's an open space, boom, you get in, either do it at the pump or you go straight into the register, get some extra, Twinkies or whatever the heck you want. You're gone, boom, done. You haul butt, you're done. I would assume that the other way, it's like the guy, if he's got a hair, that's my dog coughing up a fur ball. I don't know if you heard it or nobody went.
Oh yeah, I heard it. It is time consuming because you've got spaces for 6 cars on each side, and you got one guy running back and forth and running around trying to service everybody. So, you might wait for the attendant to get there. Whereas if it was self-service, you'd be done by the time he gets the nozzle put in your car and gets it going, and then has to run to go back to the other vehicles and check them out. You'll sit there waiting for the guy, and you're done pumping gas, but you can't physically go take that out of the tank. You have to let him do it.
It sounds so like I don't know. It sounds so not useful.
Yeah, well, it is. And I think people are going to see now with this, here's hoping anyway, that it's just not necessary. There's no reason for it. I mean, it helps nobody. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what are those guys going to do for jobs? They'll get a job somewhere else. I mean, there are jobs out there.
Well, see, that's the whole thing about it. When people say things like that, and this is throwing back so far back in time, but it's like the horse buggy and the car. As soon as you're introducing automobiles into the market, people make the decision. Some people stick with the horse, but eventually, it comes to a point where it's better to drive. And so things happen, and then those people have to go and find. I mean, it's just cell phones.
Well, yeah,
and stuff like that. I mean, it's just like movie theaters. I mean, people still go to the movie theaters, not lately, but you can entertain yourself at home.
Well, I think we've talked about this before. We seem to have selective moral outrage, and we'll pick battles and completely ignore others. Like right now, people are real resistant to self-checkout. They don't want that self-checkout thing. They want to go to the cashier. And a good portion of them, not all, but a good percentage of them will tell you those machines take away jobs from the cashier. So I'm going to the cashier to make sure they have a job. I'm showing management that they're needed. And my attitude is, really, were you that resistant to ATM machines, or do you still go into the bank, fill out a withdrawal slip, write a check or whatever, and get money that way? No, you don't. you either go to an ATM machine if you're going to use cash, or you just use the point of sale terminal at the store and swipe your card. You don't go get cash. So that's why banks with 13 counters now have 2 or 3 tellers, because they're just not needed anymore. You know,
People always accuse me of the hermit thing. They always say Eloy the hermit. This, but I've noticed with the examples that you just used, the whole world, the history of the world, has revolved around people finding ways to avoid contact with other people as much as possible. And your examples are perfect because, I want the convenience of not having to wait on some person that is taking their sweet, what time.
Right.
And I'm on their clock now all of a sudden. Well, might as well do it myself. So be it. If it tanks the economy, we'll have at it,
Right.
I'm exaggerating with the tank the economy, but the point is.
But they go a step further. They'll scream, buy local, buy local, buy local, then order it on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
They
did buy local. They sat at their local computer in their house.
And their local delivery driver has a job because of them. It's hilarious.
That is true.
I know store owners. In fact, I'm wearing the T-shirt from one of their store owners today, Tom from Tom's Guitars. I can't, it's almost impossible to count the number of people who have walked into his store, picked up a guitar, tried it. They don't like the feel of this, don't like the feel of that one. Find one that they really, really like, hang it back on the wall, and then go order it online. Come into their store, take up an hour of their time, getting them to show them different guitars, different amps, and different pedals, and say, okay, cool, thank you. Then go home and order it online.
Yeah.
I have a problem. I have a serious problem with that. I know other people. I know another lady who runs a yarn shop, and people do that to her too. They'll come in, they'll ask about a certain type of a pattern, how to do this, what kind of yarn I need for that. Okay, great. Go home and order all the supplies online. Don't buy it at the store. You just got the consultation from. You just got instruction from. The yarn's looking at you right there. Go home and order it online because you think you're going to get a better deal.
I mean, people...
And then preach at me to buy local.
Well, we're right. Well, okay, so yeah, so look, I don't blame people for buying at Walmart, dude. I personally, however, during these moments that we're living in right now, to me, buying at Walmart is it's a no-no because the lines, I don't know if I mentioned to you last time, but the lines are excessive and they let people in a few at a time. Like there's a whole process. Yeah. Whereas in my local supermarket, although I don't have the options that Walmart has, I could go in with an e-pad on my face and purchase what I want. So it's a trade-off, Yeah. And I want quick, but Walmart is successful because frankly, I mean, people want it cheap. Although it's not as cheap as you might think, but it is still cheaper than certain places. And it's a one-stop shop, man. I have no issue. I know the consequences and that mom and pop stores and this and that. But I'm drawn to the Walmart, dude. In fact, I just ordered some striped stretchy pants and a lucha libre mask so I could fit in. I'm
just for your Walmart shopping, huh?
Yeah, I'm down with the plan, dude.
Yeah. Okay. Now, pair that up with a pink camouflage muscle shirt and you got it.
Oh, that's what
You'll be all set.
See, I was gonna go topless, but now you said that, it's better to go nicely dressed. You're right.
Yeah. You gotta have something on top.
Yeah.
No shoes, no shirt, no service.
A Hulk Hogan sort of tank top.
Their standards may be low, but they're there. Okay. So
and I want them tight enough so that if I reach down to grab whatever's on the first aisle, there's plumber's crack because that's part of the whole thing.
That's right.
If you've been in a hole all these past like 20 years, just look up Walmart people of Walmart on
Oh yeah.
online.
Oh yeah. That's a meme all of its own. And
Yeah.
you know, the one thing that jumps out at me when I see those pictures or I hear those stories about that is that, and it's something I don't think people remember. When you look at somebody who's 45 years old, dressed up like a character from Frozen, and has a beard, he thinks he looks good that way.
Oh yeah.
So when you got the guy with the Daisy Dukes on and the midriff shirt, he thinks he looks good that way.
And cowboy boots.
And cowboy boots, yeah.
You can't go out in Daisy Dukes without cowboy boots.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Well, see, I've never dressed in Daisy Duke, so I don't know the etiquette. So, you know. But yeah, they think they look good that way. And that's more of a problem actually than them dressing that way. Is that they think that they woke up that morning, they put that on and went, "Yep, this is it. You look good today. Let's go to the store." You know?
Well, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I might have told you in the past, but it's like one of those. It's incredibly not. It doesn't bode well, but it's a funny story nonetheless. So I didn't have. I'm not going to say that we were dirt poor because that's not the case. I mean, it's not like I had a wide selection of clothing. Let's say I had a lot of rock shirts and jeans and this and that, but that particular day, when I was a kid, my clothes was in the wash, you know, and my friends come over in their car. "Hey, what's up, Eloy? This and that. Come on, we're going to go over to this guy's house. Come on." I said, "Guys, I don't have, you know, anything to wear. I got my clothes over there, you know, in the wash. And let's just put something on. Let's go, man. We got to go. And we got to this and that and speakers and music and this and that." And I'm like, "No, dude, no." And yes, dude, yes. I said, "Okay, fine." I gave in. All I had was, do you remember those stretchy biker shorts?
Yeah, bikes. Yeah, bike shorts. Yeah,
I had the spandex, and they were black with white stripes on the side. So I put those on. I had a tank top, and I don't know why. I'd have to dig in my memory, but all I had was my cowboy boots. And they looked at me and said, "Dude, you're fine, and we're not even gonna get out of the car, so don't worry. Come on, let's go."
Yeah.
And I jumped in, and you know, I'm in my biker stretchies and the tank top and the boots. We get to this guy's house, and it'll just be a moment, and this and that. And I don't know what happened. Everybody left. I'm sitting in the car, and it's like, and then one of my friends comes up and, "Come in, dude, because we gotta wait, because this and that, something's." And I said, "Dude, look how I'm dressed, and the guy's parents are there, dude. I look like, you know." And so I got out, and the father's standing there, and he sees me walk up to the door wearing the spandex, the tank top, and boots.
Cowboy boots.
And he looks at me, and he looks at his son and the friends, and he just shakes his head, and he walks away.
He was probably trying to figure out which one of the village people you were trying to be.
I swear to you, dude, because the whole idea was that I would not get out, you know. So okay, fine. Well, that's what happened. It was pretty embarrassing.
The minute you said, "Well, don't worry about it. You're not even going to get out of the car," I knew you were going to get out of the car. And that's my signal to make sure that I'm dressed. If somebody says, "We're not even going to get out of the car," we're going to get out of the car. So it's time to get dressed.
Yeah.
Now, there are times if we're going to go to the drive-thru or something like that, I'll say to Linda, "Well, I don't think we're going to get out of the car. So it's up to you if you want to get dressed up or whatever." Because, you know, we hang around in comfortable clothes. I'm in t-shirt and sweatpants most of the time. So it's no big deal. If I go outside, I'm in blue jeans. I'm not the height of fashion here. So I'm the king of casual.
Yeah.
But if I got to go somewhere to a store or something like that, I put on shoes and socks, blue jeans, and not necessarily in that order, but you get the message.
Yeah.
It's just, be at least semi-presentable in town. My mother would have a fit if she saw some of the stuff that I wore because she was, oh gosh,
Oh well, I
that's
mean,
another story for another day.
yeah, people used to dress, and the standards were, I
Mm.
mean, Americans like to be comfortable,
Yeah.
and I think personally, I feel comfortable. I know it's not the height of fashion, like you're saying, but it's like, anytime I have to don a freaking suit, it's like,
Hmm.
oh
Yeah.
man, it's like you know, I don't know,
The
I just,
the only suit I own, and it's not really a suit, but it's the only thing with a tie that I own is my Class A uniform from the Army. And I got out of the Army in November of 1991. So it's not a suit, it's a uniform, but you do wear a button-up shirt with a tie and then a jacket over it. So it's the closest thing to a suit I've got. And I haven't worn that since 1991. If I got to dress up like that, I don't need to go. I just don't need to be there.
I have. See, I don't even want to say. Well, I'll say, I have one proper suit, and it fits all right. But it. You should have at least a couple of suits. You know, my dad had various, and it was the times back then. But it's not like an everyday or well, you should have it in waiting.
Mhm.
Excuse me. In waiting, in case. I mean, I do understand there is a standard. It's just that I
Mhm.
don't follow it. Yeah.
Well, now I do have some nice slacks and I have some button-up shirts and I do have a tie from my real estate days, but I didn't wear it very often. I wore nice button-up shirts or nice pullover and slacks. But so, it's not like I go in looking like a ragamuffin to, everywhere I go. But when I'm just out and about kicking around, I'm in blue jeans, t-shirt, and shoes. Sometimes my Merrill shoes, sometimes my El Cheapo Walmart shoes. So it just depends on what's going on and where I'm going to be going.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and
it's
by
no
the way,
big deal.
and I don't know about your area, if people, the standards generally, if you're underdressed for the area or right about right, or how it might be for your area.
My area is pretty rural and jeans, tennis shoes, or logging boots, or just comfortable shoes for that matter, are pretty standard. Now, my wife reminded me here, I do have my kilt tuxedo shirt, Prince Charlie jacket and tie. So that's like a Scottish tuxedo. I do have all of that. I don't fit much of it anymore, and I haven't worn it since my daughter's wedding. So I don't even know if I could count that because it doesn't fit. So
Well, over here in Miami, as you know, there's a variety of different, but the height of fashion, as you know, it's Miami,
well,
so
of
it's
course.
like it's the peacock, right? You're strutting, the feathers are going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the peacock thing. You got to do the whole GQ, on top of the, hey, the whole thing. And
Armani.
yeah, like that whole thing. It's like
Mhm.
that it's got that,
The label
cruising.
vibe.
You're cruising the vistas. It's like that Southern European
Yeah.
cappuccino. You're
Yeah.
cruising the vistas. It's that whole vibe, and you know, in my heart of hearts, it's not. Yes, I have dressed in occasions and to
Mhm.
parties and whatnots and stuff,
Sure.
but in my heart of hearts, it's like I truly am comfortable with like a rock shirt,
Mhm.
jeans, and just shoes. Regular shoe. It can be tennis shoes, or it can be like
Mhm.
some, slash half tennis shoe, half like mid to like they look
Like a
like they're
work boot.
fancy.
Yeah.
No, like fancier shoes that aren't
Oh,
fancy.
okay.
They're comfy fancies.
Yeah. Like Dr. Scholl's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a Dr. Scholl's any day.
Yeah. I tell you what, when I was working casino and on my feet for hours and hours at a dead run, those Dr. Scholl's came in real handy. Vibram soles, the whole thing, nice and soft. I kind of started a rabbit hole with my wife. We're talking about this whole thing of dressing and attire and what have you. And I really never thought I would get into this subject here, but she does a lot of spinning demos, spinning and weaving and knitting and things like that. And a lot of these demonstrations are, I won't say reenactments or anything, but they're usually set up with kind of a pioneer or early English, Scottish type of an atmosphere. And I ran across this video. These are the rabbit holes that I get sent down. This video was in my suggested column over on the right side of the screen. I don't even remember what video I was watching, but it was called Getting Dressed in the 14th Century. And it was done in documentary style. You have this woman standing there in a shift, it's called, which is basically the medieval version of underwear. It's a real loose fitting gown, almost like a nightgown. And then every layer of clothing they put on was put on over the top of that shift. That was the foundation garment. And it turns out that this YouTube channel has an entire series for men and for women called Getting Dressed. And like you'd have men from the mid 1800s in England or in America. And it was just all of the different garments that they wore at whatever time of year and whatever time frame, male and female. Well, she found one that was from the mid 1700s, around 1750 to 58 is what she's shooting for.
Dang.
And she started looking things up and finding information on these garments, and she's now making them. Gosh, so that she can dress in the period clothing for the time.
Man, I'll tell you, I just want to just interject and just say, I like everything history, some eras more than others, but the fact that you just opened up a hole that I would have gotten to maybe after everything else was exhausted, but it's an important little extra aside that completes or helps complete a picture of the eras of the past. And I just looked it up, and there's like a truckload of stuff, and I'm going to be
there's a whole bunch of them. I'll put a link to that video, Getting Dressed in the 14th Century, on the Trampled Underfoot Facebook page. Go to Facebook, look for Trampled Underfoot Podcast. I'll put a link to that video. It's real interesting stuff. And they had different types of clothes for different classes of people. Like you had working women and working men. Then you had the high class aristocrats, women and men of the same time period. Then they'd move on to another time period. And so what she is doing is she has started from scratch. I mean, she sewed up, and she's also using period materials. So all of this is done in linen with linen thread. And she made a shift. That's finished. She's made the petticoat. What they would do is they would take a strap and they'd sew two pouches. Those were your pockets that were just sewed to this strap, and you tied that strap around your waist and you had pockets. And the skirt was split, and one of them, the back half of the skirt tied around your waist, and the front half of the skirt got pulled up and tied around your waist, and there's a big slot down the sides, and that's how you reached in to get into those pockets.
That is so cool.
And then that was the petticoat, which was kind of the underwear over the shift. Then there was a skirt over the top of that. And then the big whalebone stays. They don't use whalebone anymore. They use a plastic now. And a plate that went in the front, and it laced up around the front, and then an overscarf, and then a bonnet, and the whole thing. It's really, really intricate stuff. But I never thought she would go for something like this. I thought she might like it. But the kicker about it is she hates to sew. So she's not using a sewing machine. She's sewing all this stuff by hand.
Oh, wow.
With linen thread and putting it all together. The bonnet, the whole ding dong thing.
That's so cool.
And it really sent her down a rabbit hole, but it's fascinating and she's enjoying the heck out of it. but that whole series is real interesting. And I just thought she'd get a kick out of it. Man, that looks really cool. And she's like, I wonder if they have anything. She started looking on the YouTube channel.
Spurred her into this whole world.
Oh, yeah. And because I know she doesn't like to sew, but she's doing it all by hand. Oh, it's excellent stuff. And let me look for it right now while I see a couple of people over in the chat on YouTube. Here, go to YouTube and look for Trampled Underfoot Podcast. We record every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. A few people over here in the live chat are making guesses as to who this was. And I'm going to look up right now. Okay. The YouTube channel is called Crow's Eye Productions. Crow as in the bird.
Mm-hmm.
Crow's Eye Production.
That's what I had up here, yeah.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and I'm not going to I can't put a link in the inside chat here on YouTube because, believe it or not, I'm not a moderator, but I just put the name of the channel in there.
I could do it. I don't know why you're not a moderator, but
I don't know why I'm not a moderator either. Steve's a moderator, but that's cool.
You must have done something wrong.
I must have. That's okay. So yeah, she's that YouTube channel is just loaded with stuff like that, and it's cool. There's nobody more surprised than me that I would find something like that interesting. But just seeing all the layers that they put on, because I mean, these people basically lived in this stuff because these were poor people, most of them. And that might be the only clothes they own. So they had to be rugged. They had to be able to withstand not only the work that they were doing, but they had to last a long time. So
amazing.
It was really something. It really is cool stuff. So anyway, that was my journey on that. And if you're into history, just to see what people wore back during certain eras, that's the YouTube channel to check out. Crow's Eye Productions.
I'll be taking a look at that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a curiosity, just like I said before, it adds to the whole history. Just like when you were talking about that channel that they talk about the food that people ate back then. That's also interesting, and the very variations between what peasants, let's say, would eat and what the hierarchies would eat, and
right,
and all that. That's also super interesting. It just fills in the blanks,
Yeah. Well, it's real intriguing stuff to me. I mean, we both love history, but she's thinking about, she's getting this outfit together. And I got to tell you, making all this stuff, it's not cheap because a lot of this stuff isn't really popular and in high demand anymore. So you have to kind of go to specialty shops. But, it's not, kill yourself, take out a loan type of expensive, but it's more than you would spend down at Walmart on an outfit. She's making up the outfit of a working woman in the 18th century, somewhere around 1850 to 1858, somewhere in there. 1750 to 1758, somewhere in there. But then we got to talking about, well, what about a pioneer woman, someone coming out on the Oregon Trail? Because people out here can relate to that. So we're just starting to investigate that, what the pioneers would have worn. And going to kind of run with that and see what's going on. Because you're going to need more than one outfit because a lot of these demos are 2, 3, 4 days.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, too, how people around the world, not just America, let's say just globally, they, even generations after, are doing this type of work, independently here and there. People, just generating records and gathering and the whole thing. I just, the whole thing is fascinating to me. I just like how did we get here from there? I like that whole concept,
Did you ever? I linked you to a video one day last week by a YouTuber named Marius Berger.
Boy, I can't quite.
He's the one who was building. Who's restoring the timber frame house.
I remember now.
Did you ever get to check?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
I did watch it.
His channel is full of stuff. His house was made in the 1300s. And he's in the process of restoring it. And it was all timber frame and with, you've seen the Tudor style. It's all timber framed and the walls are made out of mud and willow branches and things like that. And he's posted videos over the years of his adventures in restoring this house. And they're just finally being able to live in it full time because it's been a lot of work to get it up to this point. And when I say just finally, over the course of the last couple of years, they've been able to live in it. Now, he's using modern tools. Sometimes he has to revert to the old tools. But you want to talk about some interesting stuff and how they built homes in the 1300s. And you start looking at it and thinking it's just sticks and mud. How is this thing going to ever last? Then you have to stop yourself and back up and go, it's 600 years old. It's going to last,
It's a crazy thing that, let me throw this in there. Where my grandmother comes from, or her family comes from, her mom, her grandma, her father, they come from an island it's called the Canary Islands. Mm-hmm. And the people there, I did some research, they used to dig into the rock of the mountains mm-hmm. and create their dwellings. And I'm not talking about caveman times. I'm mm-hmm. talking about people that had come, and populated the island, dug out and created these caverns. Mm-hmm. And they weren't huge, or at least the ones that I've seen, but they were enough for a bedroom, a kitchen, and like basic stuff in the side of the darn mountain. Then they'd have an outside patio on the edge of the mountain. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I saw and I was like, holy smokes, this is where these people, would do that. And so, it really weird how in different regions people would set up shop, let's say.
You have to build with the materials that are there. And for many, many, many years out on the prairies of the U.S., they would make homes out of bales of straw. I mean, and they still today will build with straw bales, not hay, but straw. You compact it into bales and tie it up and just start stacking them. And they stake them together and everything else. But when you have 2-foot thick walls and then it's covered with plaster or a mud adobe when you're out on the prairie, and when you get that all built up, they can be stronger than a conventionally framed house. They're fire retardant because the stuff just will not burn. It's packed so tightly in there, and there's no way to get oxygen to it. It just won't burn.
That's freaking awesome.
And they are still building. There are some places that will allow it. Here in the state of Oregon, they do allow you to build with straw bales, but there's different inspection criteria for it and everything else. And there is a little bit of timber framing in it. But out on the prairies, there weren't a whole heck of a lot of trees to cut down and mill into lumber to build houses out of. So you have to build with what you got locally. And that goes back to the folks in the Canary Islands. That's all they had to work with. I mean, there were a few things, but there wasn't enough for them to build an entire house, but they could build an entrance to a house.
It was mountainous.
Yeah. If you got to dig into the side of the hill for your dwelling and then use what little wood you can scrape together to build the entrance,
you might as well, I mean, it's either that or living on the beach like Tom Hanks, and that didn't work out too good for him.
Yeah. I mean, look at the Pueblos down there in Arizona. They didn't build basically a small city on the side of a cliff because they liked it. They did it because that's what they had.
Are they? And they're still there.
No, the people are long gone.
No,
The Anasazi,
structures.
but the structures are still there. Yeah, and they've been there for thousands of years.
They've been there for thousands of years.
Well, a couple of thousand years that they know of.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy.
So, I mean, there were sod houses, there were straw houses. We know about block, brick, and stone houses because that's what they had to work with.
I just want to throw this out there because now that we're talking about all this, I am a proponent. I mean, personally, it's not like this is like do or die, but I'm a proponent personally of brick or cinder block.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea. It's super freaking awesome, rough, tough, and all that. I like the idea. The idea of just only timber homes seems. I know that they're flimsy in a way. Although I know they're structurally sound and savage, the wood, I understand that. But the idea of rock or concrete or whatever, just that just sounds more stable. Now, with that said, I'm not too down with wooden freaking pitched roofs and this. What the hell's that all about? I think that from now on, the best thing would be freaking like they do in warehouses, freaking concrete slabs with rebar. Boom.
See,
done. You don't have to worry about water. You don't have to worry about nothing. Bam. You're done.
Now go hang a picture.
On
on that solid concrete wall.
Not on the roof.
Oh, okay, on the roof. See, that's the Miami talking. That's the Eastern Seaboard hurricane area talking. Go a few hundred miles to your north, well, actually be closer to 1,000 miles to your north, where our mutual friend Dan Haryu is. They're all wood framed from the 1700s.
Well,
because they don't get the severe weather that you get out here. We have rock houses and brick houses and block houses too, but the overwhelming majority of them are wood frame that have been here since the 1800s when this valley was settled. Because we just don't get the kind of weather you guys get.
I totally get it, and that has largely to do with it because we have to deal with severe, climactic situations. Yeah. But the idea, I'll just refine my comment and just add to. Well, I did say in the beginning for me, but I'll refine my comment even further, and I'll say that because of where we live, and the fact that the actual structure is like that cinder block or what do you call the bricks and whatnot. You're not going to find a wooden, built.
No,
but now that the structure is built like that and roofs are still made out of wood, timber, and then the shingles and whatnot and this and that. In my mind, and I've seen a bunch of people, not a bunch, a few, where they said screw it, like more modernized, and they have more of like a trendy what you call Art Deco-y type look, and they'll make their roofs just freaking concrete with rebar and the whole, and bam, bam, bam on the top, done, sealed. If there's cracking, there's always a way to solve that, and it's quite obvious and this and that. But this whole system that they've used for hundreds and hundreds of years of the shingle and this and that, I know it's solved a lot of problems, but it's such a pain in the frickin'. But we got concrete, man. Concrete that roof, flat roof, whatever the heck, or you can even arch it if you want some designs. But that way eliminates the problem of hurricanes. Everything done. It's expensive.
Yeah, and for your area that makes sense. For this area out here, it's ridiculous. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that the houses out here that are all wood frame would probably not survive in your area because you do get those weather extremes, but we don't get that here. Out here, our major threat is fire and earthquake. And these houses have a little bit of give to them, and they'll rock and they'll sway a little bit in the earthquake, and then the earthquake's over and that's it. It's done. Brick doesn't do that. And in fact, most of the damage done in the big earthquakes, like down in Southern California or what have you, is done to brick and block buildings and big concrete structures.
I will tell you now that you said that, it reminded me of something. And that's a good point, by the way, because it's just a total different ecosystem.
Yeah. It's completely different geography and geology.
Well, the other day,
Mhm.
last week or whatever it was, I saw a video and then read some articles on it because I was super curious about it, where they had built this top-notch, high-end skyscraper
Mhm.
in San Francisco, in
Mhm.
in the best part of town, right there, overlooking the bridge. I mean, everything.
Mhm.
And it was built tall and this and that. Well, it's actually sunk by I don't
Mhm.
know how much, I forget now, and it's leaning.
Okay, I think you're talking about the Transamerica Pyramid, aren't you?
I don't know if it's it was an actual straight sort of skyscraper, but
Okay.
this building was built
Mhm.
and people purchased, their apartments and whatnot for millions of dollars. And the people are complaining and this and that. Well, according to the documentary, the problem is that originally San Francisco, that area
Mhm.
along the bay, was actually filled in to
Okay.
create more land for the ever expanding whatever.
Yeah.
And they built this thing, and then their pylons that they did, they didn't reach bedrock
Mhm.
or whatever the case in their specific. And so they were basically sitting there just sinking. So the buildings actually sunk, and it's a huge mammoth.
Yeah. The
And
Millennium Tower. I just found it's 58-story building.
yeah,
Yeah. And it was built on quote unquote reclaimed land. Yeah. They have filled a lot of that, you know. It's that city and that area has done that quite a bit. They'll kind of push back the bay and do a lot of fill and then let it work for a little while and then push it back a little bit more. I mean, Treasure Island, which used to be a naval base, I guess now it's been turned over to the state. That was all man-made. That was all fill. And I mean, they dumped cars in there and concrete and the whole ding dong thing. I mean, just piled junk upon junk and then started pouring dirt to fill in the cracks. And it's sinking. They're constantly filling out there on that island. So it's that does not surprise me.
it's
But
insane.
yeah, it's the Millennium Tower in San Francisco that is sinking.
So
So okay.
it's actually sinking
And tilting.
and tilting. So it's like double whammy. And these people, I think one of the people were interviewed, they paid $2 million for their apartment.
Oh yeah.
And they showed the window. They said, "Look at our view. It's beautiful." But
Mhm.
like, you
Yeah.
know, we've got a problem. And so now, according to the article and what I remember, I'm
Mhm.
paraphrasing more or less the roundabout, um, is that they have to now go in and under and do whatever it is that they do to save it from continuing to
Mhm.
sink.
Yeah. And I wonder about that simply because I mean, and this is kind of what I'm talking about when I say Americans have a memory as long as their nose. When the Loma Prieta earthquake hit in the late 80s, that was when it happened, game one of the World Series. And they caught it live. They were just going live to start broadcasting from the game when the quake hit. There is a phenomena called liquefaction that a lot of this reclaimed land, this landfill, when that earthquake hit, it just started, it almost turned into a liquid. And as it shook, things started settling down into it.
Right.
Houses were pulled off of foundations, homes were destroyed, fires started breaking out and everything. And this was in the late 1980s. And there was a big deal made out of liquefaction of the ground and how you just could not build on this, what used to be the seabed, which is now the ground out here. And it's only been, well, it's been about 40 years now, between 30 and 40 years now since that happened. And we see people have forgotten about that. So there's no doubt in my mind that they followed all the building codes and they did everything that they were supposed to do when they built that high rise. It's kind of hard to sneak a 50 plus story building past somebody and not expect a code violation.
Right.
So they followed the laws. They just forgot what happened the last time, because all the people that had those houses that got destroyed, they followed the laws too. So, I don't know. It's just me. I don't think I'd build anything on that. Anything bigger than a food truck, maybe.
I mean, right, because then you're only out a couple of tacos.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, another weird thing is that, and I always mention this, particularly around this summertime, beginning of, I just don't get when those first explorers arrived here, specifically here in Florida, knowing what I know all my life, and you could argue, then why don't you frickin' go? But these first explorers that come here, they're dressed in their whole thing, and it's hot and muggy, and it's sticky, and why even bother, dude? It's like, and yet people kept doing it until you have all of us, and it's like, I don't know that this is yes, it's sunny, and I guess that's cool, but I have air conditioner, and I use it. They didn't have that. What the heck, dude? It doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense to me.
But look at who settled there. The Spanish settled Florida first.
Mm-hmm.
It's same conditions are in Spain. The only difference is they don't have hurricanes in Spain. Down in that area on the Mediterranean, it's hot, it's humid, it's muggy, it's nasty. They didn't have air conditioning either. It was a climate they were used to.
Well, this is more jungle and humid. Yeah. I don't know that is the south of Spain.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're right there on the Mediterranean. Oh yeah.
Dry air, not humid.
Now up in the northern part, up in the mountains, where your ancestors came from, it may be completely different, but that's not where the major populations came from. These were seafaring peoples, and they were there in the ports, and most from the Mediterranean, not all.
Well, I guess
from down on the Mediterranean.
That does kind of help a little bit, but just the idea. Well, hell, even that. Well, okay, so like this, even deserts, but forget that for a moment. Like deserts, that sounds like, inhospitable, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, your source of water and all these things, but the idea of what this is, and I can't tell you that I can't make the argument that this is hotter than over there. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can sure as hell tell you that without air conditioning, I don't know that I would not be happy. I'd be in a bad mood all the time.
Right.
Anytime I'm, because it's just sticky. It makes sense. The best place to me that makes sense is somewhere in the middle America, like sort of just further north.
But then again, if there was no such thing as air conditioning and everything else being equal, you were born there and you were raised there and have lived there for as many years as you had, you'd be used to it. You wouldn't know anything else. You may not like it, but you wouldn't know anything else. That's why you take somebody who's lived along the equator all their life. Well, you don't even have to go that far. You take somebody who is, I knew a woman who was born and raised on Guam. And when she went to work in the casino up in a little bitty town nobody's ever heard of called Dayton, Nevada, just outside of Carson City, the state capital. She was 51 years old when she moved there and went to work in the casino I was managing at the time. And the first night it snowed there after she moved up there, she was 51. That is the first time she'd ever seen it snow. And she was fascinated by it. She thought it was just absolutely wondrous. But her first winter there, she was absolutely miserable. She had never been in a climate that cold before. She was used to tropical. I mean, we're talking Guam. That's very tropical. Air conditioning is which direction is the wind blowing. Yeah. So she was miserable her first winter there. Her second winter, she was better, but she acclimatized. She got a little bit more used to it. So your body will adapt, but it takes a while.
I'll just say a few things, as far as, so I've been, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, during cold season. And yes, as a Floridian, I couldn't help but say, dang, it's cold. But I found it exhilarating. And I spent a couple of weeks in Chicago. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty, like, I remember that coffee was even better, not because it tasted but it was even better than it is down here. It was like a pleasure. I remember the bundling up. I had to bundle up like mad. But there was something exciting. I felt like I had some pep in my walk. Here, I feel sunken and dragging. Now, I will take up. Jim said two things, and I want to respond because it's always good to have a little. He says, "I thought the Seminoles were the first to settle Florida." So, no, the Spaniards were. No, just kidding. No, the first to settle Florida were the Tequesta and the Calusa tribes that we're aware of, that were here in the mouth of the Miami River, and there was another tribe further north, and they existed here prior to all that. But European exploration started with the Spaniards. However, the Tequesta and the Calusa, I don't know exactly what happened, but the Seminoles eventually, I think that European disease and contact and fighting, but the Seminoles actually tracked down into Florida and overtook those areas. But prior was those two tribes. Okay. And then the second thing is I'm in Canada, because Jim said, I'm in Canada and need AC. Granted, everywhere you might need an AC, but dude, I don't know if you can put yourself in my shoes. If you could put yourself in my shoes, and I know it's hard to do, but just for one moment, imagine the extended period of heat throughout the cycle of the year where it's really, really, really uncomfortable. And it's not like a nuisance. It's more like a thick, heavy weight on you that actually causes people to be more intense. I mean, if you ever go to visit Miami, you'll see that people are a little bit more like ready to snap at you and stuff. And I think it has to do partially with the fact that it's incredibly, insanely hot, and they're kind of pissed.
It's repressive heat and humidity is what it is. It's not, and it's not humidity. This is flippin'-midity. This is a mugginess. This is you got to put your clothes in the dryer to dry them before you put them on type of a muggy. It's wicked stuff. I've not been down as far south as Miami, but that's what Savannah, Georgia was all the time. In the winter, you got some relief, but from about mid-May till about mid-October, forget it. It was nasty.
Again, look, the argument can be made at some level. It also fascinates me. Well, it fascinates me. You can also make the argument of people traveling to very cold climates and sticking around there because there's limitations occurring there big time. And they have a window of gathering food and supplies until it hits the fans. Because over here, you might sweat your butt off, but you can kind of harvest all year round. Different crops and whatnot. Like you could do it and in abundance. Yeah. So there is that. So in the context of that, I guess everything's relative, but yeah, I don't know. I think somewhere moderate climate. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you are free to go. You are free to go.
No, there's an actual isn't there a state to state travel ban now?
Well, right now, yeah, but this isn't going to last forever. I
Oh
don't
well,
think it's a state to state travel ban. I mean, I'm 30 miles off of the, we I think we talked about this before. They put it on the news, and they're still saying it on the news. There are no roadblocks on the California border, 30 miles south of us. There are none. The Oregon State Police are not keeping people from California from coming up here. So no, you're free to travel back and forth.
I'll
So
tell you what though. I'll tell you one thing. To me, California, Southern California, did have beautiful weather.
it did.
It was good stuff, dude.
If you don't mind living in one massive city,
No, I
because
get
that's all it is.
no. I'm just saying, weather-wise, it is a perfect for me balance of wonder and happiness. Because honestly, I when it comes to its like geographic sort of landmarks and everything, to me, California is just gorgeous.
I
The
like.
well, but that aspect,
Mhm.
like it's and climactically, it's just at night. It's got a really nice vibe. It's during the day it can get hot, but it's not like Florida. It's not like Florida, dude. It's not. It's
No,
just,
it's a dry heat.
yeah.
I liked Hawaii. In the wintertime, the average temperature was 82. In the summertime, the average temperature was 85. And it stayed about like that most of the time. Now they did get rain. They got some serious rain a time or two, but that was, pretty rare. There were hurricanes, but they're pretty rare. It's one island out in the middle of the ocean. But Hawaii was gorgeous. And you had the trade winds blowing, the humidity stayed 45, 55%, something like that.
Yeah.
If the winds started coming up from the south, you had what they called Kona weather, because the winds would come up off the Kona coast to the Big Island, and that was the hot, muggy, sticky weather. But you have maybe a week of that, maybe during the summertime. And it didn't happen all the time. It didn't happen every year. And then the winds would change and off you went. It was just fine. When we landed in Honolulu that day, they had at the time, and we're talking about 1984 or late 1993. We landed, they had their record high temperature that day. It was 95.
I'm going to tell you exactly where I was in late 1993.
And it was basically very calm. They didn't have any daylight savings time. Sun came up within a half an hour of the same time over the course of a year, and the sun went down within a half hour of the same time over the course of the year. Mellow, chill, boring weather. That's all I can say. But it was great. It was excellent. I mean, our home didn't even have a heater or air conditioning system. You're hot, open the window. You're cold, close it. We opened the windows when we moved into that place. I closed them one time when we left in 1998.
I'm gonna hit you with some. Wait, 1990. But you were talking 1993 originally.
Yeah, we got there in like September of 93, and we left in March of 98.
Okay, let me hit you with some records from 1993 because we never touch on that.
Oh,
and
okay.
I remember purchasing some of those. If you would.
Okay. We're changing over to music.
Well,
okay, cool.
Just a side little thing. I didn't mean to do that. I just wanted to throw that out because I was thinking, what records was I buying? Oh, you like the segue? It's rough, but
yeah,
that was a hard frickin' turn, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a hard turn or what?
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out. What I was trying to figure out was, okay, he's saying 1993. Let me see if I can pinpoint what I was doing in 93 via the records that I was purchasing at the time. And then I ended up, looking at that. So I'll just tell you the records I bought, and one of them was Verses by Pearl Jam. I don't think that you were into Pearl Jam, let's say.
No, I wasn't. I didn't get into them at all.
It was a pretty good album. It was probably one of their last good albums, in my opinion. But you've heard of them, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were pretty good back then. What else did I purchase? I'll tell you. Oh, well, they had U2's Zooropa, which I don't think I had purchased.
I don't have.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not a great, in my opinion. It's okay. Bad Out of Hell Part 2 came out.
Don't have that. I have the first one.
Yeah, the first one.
But I think everybody did.
Yeah, everybody did pretty much. I did not like this band. Have you heard of the Crash Test Dummies?
I've heard of them, but I've never listened to their music.
Okay, yeah, the guy's voice, and people like that band, but his voice is so deep that I just can't dig that. But whatever, famous band from that era. Do you have any that you've looked up or no?
No, the only album that I can remember buying in that time period when we were in Hawaii was Ledbetter Heights by Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Now, we're looking at 93, late 93. Let's see. I got Ian Moore's first album, self-titled Ian Moore. I bought a very little-known band in the South called All Good.
Okay.
The album I got was called Uncommon Goal. That was either 92 or 93. Good, excellent band. You can't find any of their stuff on YouTube. They're that little known. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. And I think that'll segue into, because we all know that musicians and artists and people, and you might yourself consider, a little bit weird, a little bit different. You could say weird, you could say different, but these are people that are, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily fit a certain mold. And, it's just people that are weird. So I've got a few weird quotes from people talking about being weird that are popular, famous. And I had looked for this earlier, and I think it was a good, we did a hard turn and then ended up there. And I don't know if, would you like me to share? Or
Yeah, go with it.
I'll share one or two. If you like it, we can do a couple more. If you don't, we could just, stroll on by. Okay. So I'll give you some quotes, and I'll tell you who said them, or if you can guess who said them, which is going to be pretty difficult. But so here's a quote. I think everybody's weird. We should all celebrate individuality and not be embarrassed or ashamed of it. Johnny Depp.
That was his quote?
That was his quote.
Okay. Because I've heard something similar by somebody else, and I was trying to figure out who said it. And for some reason, my brain went towards Frank Zappa. But never mind. Okay,
so we'll do this. I'll tell you the quote, and then down, with clues to see if you can guess who it is if you ask me. Here's the next quote. I never set out to be weird. It was always other people who called me weird. He's a musician.
Never set out to be weird. It's always other people who called me weird.
He's a musician. And the guys and gals can also play along. Who said that? Here's the quote again. I never set out to be weird. It was always other people who called me weird. The guy's a musician.
Is he a singer at all?
He sings. He's a singer, you could say, but he's not. He's
not known for that. Okay.
He's known for it, but his forte is the guitar. Let's say.
Wow. No. Let's see.
He's got a mustache.
Zappa.
Bingo.
Oh, okay.
Because you had mentioned him right before, so I said,
yeah.
Let's hit him with that.
You know what? I never see, because by the time I started getting into Zappa's music, he called himself weird. So to hear him say, I never set out to be weird. Other people always called me weird. I never made the association, because he reveled in his weirdness. So maybe that was later on in life. Who knows?
Well, who knows when that was?
The first my exposure to Frank Zappa was watching the TV show The Monkees when I was a kid.
Okay.
And just in one little end clip, the story of the show ended early, I guess. They didn't have enough footage, so they filmed a little clip. And there's Mike Nesmith sitting in a chair with barefooted saying, my friend Frank Zappa is going to come out here and play the car. And Zappa just basically beat up an old Packard with a sledgehammer. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And then I started hearing the name Frank Zappa. And I thought, well, what's going on? And I started looking for his music, and I found a few things.
He was a weird character, though.
Yeah.
He just picked out weird or things that in society, and he put them on display. And the act of doing that, the way he did in music, makes people think and feel sort of a little bit on edge, or laugh. And hence you end up with the tagline of "You're weird" or "You're sort of weird."
Well, he was weird. I mean, you don't write something like Joe's Garage, Acts 1, 2, and 3 after a cup of coffee. You're weird to come up with the idea.
Yeah,
but that's cool.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm looking through the quotes, and I think that
that's about it, huh?
Well, anybody that we kind of in the realm of what we know, the rest are just not people that we know.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you anything Beyonce said or or Jay-Z or anything like that.
No, I'm going to have to go back to the 5 biographies of JC of who? JC?
Jay-Z.
Oh, Jay-Z.
Yeah, JP or JC. Yeah.
When you said Jay-Z, when you said Jay, I called him JC. I'm so if you're a cultural, I'm getting red. If you're a cultural infidel, you're a
cultural hermit. Actually, you've got your finger on the pulse of culture more than I do, because goodness. I just don't care.
I called him JC.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
See? No, it's been a while. It's been a while, dude. That after a while, it just drops off, and all of a sudden, you're not in touch. I mean, you're really not. Okay, like the other day, I was watching a video, dude, and so like you don't hear people say "dude" anymore.
I do. I say it all the time.
No, but yes, but I'm talking about like
out in the proletariat, I hear people say it all the time.
Oh, well, hell. So here's the thing. I was watching these kids in this video. I don't know what the drama was about in the YouTube video, if it was a gag or I don't know what the hell. And this girl says to this guy, she says, that was lit. And I was like, and it was such, and I said, lit. And I felt like some sort of investigator. And I said, what lit? Of course, lit means that's awesome. The way she used it in the context, but by me analyzing that, I realized that this, timeline has eluded me because I would never say lit.
Yeah, welcome to middle age, my friend. We still use the words that we grew up with.
That's lit.
But some of them stick around forever, like the word cool meaning something good or something, really in keeping with today's fashion or trends or what have you.
Yeah.
That's from the 20s. So the 1920s. So the expression cool is 100 years old. Lit meant drunk.
Yeah.
When in our common, slang.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the word dude. Dude is from the 1800s, and a dude was some fancy guy all dressed up from back east who came out west. He was a dude, or a dandy. A dandy was but they were the dressed up upper crust, the aristocrats. A dude was just somebody in a, nice button down suit from back east who came out west and didn't know, head from tail.
Right. But
so it was actually an insult.
yeah, but sometime in the late 70s, I don't know if it's earlier than that, but for sure in the 80s, it became widespread, extreme. That was the time when the dude, hey, what's going on, dude? I mean, that's all we use. And there was a competitor to dude, which was bro.
Mm-hmm.
And I never liked it that much, although I use it every now and again because we are in Miami, and over here they use the word bro a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bro, what are you doing? Bro, are you dumb? Bro. But to me, dude was the more natural, but in right along dude was bro. So, yeah.
In the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, it was man. Hey, man. What's up, man? How you doing, man?
Yeah.
That was used instead of bro or dude. Dude on occasion, but mainly man.
60s?
Yeah.
In the 60s, you used dude?
On occasion. Not very often. Because dude was associated with hippies and drugs and druggies and stuff like that. They said, dude. And that was back in the 60s and 70s too. That stereotype. The stereotypical hippie that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
They said, dude.
Oh, okay. So then that was the so that it did start back. But it I don't know if it's just me, but it really took force with the skaters and all the stuff in the 80s, skaters and all that in the 80s, because you heard it in popular culture.
Oh, it got real big in the late 70s and 80s, and man kind of went off. The dude and man kind of trade places over the course of those decades. Yeah. But then when you got girls calling one another dude, that still cracks me up when my daughter calls one of her female friends dude. And it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's not formal. It's what you say amongst friends. You don't do that. I mean, I guess we don't know that, but these are things we say. But now there's things like lit or fat. Dude, that's so fat. I learned that years ago because of a video of a movie with what's that guy, Ben Stiller, and where he jumps into the I think it was called Meet the Parents or something like that. Yeah. Did you watch that one?
I've seen the first one, yes, but I didn't see the other one.
Did you think it was funny? I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
I mean, so he snuck into the room because he went out to smoke a cigarette or something like that, and then he's looking for clothes. No, okay, this is what happened. He goes into the drawer because his father-in-law, soon to be, said, "Go into my son's and pick out some clothes." So he's pulling open the drawer. And he picks up and he's looking at these underwear. At the same time, the kid sneaks in through the window and catches this guy holding up his underwear. And he goes, "What are you doing? Are you sniffing my underwear?" Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yes. Dude, it's been a long time. I saw it once a long time ago, but yeah, I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
So he goes like this. He goes like, "Dude, no," and this and that. And so when they finally come to an agreement. When they come to an agreement, he says, "All right, just let's keep this on the down low, right?" And he uses all those terms and whatnot, trying to stay cool with the guy.
Yeah,
whatever. I heard those terms in that movie, I believe.
It's funny to go back and think about stuff that I used to say and that we used to. Different slang words that we used to use for different meanings, and some that just have not aged well and have no meaning now, like the phrase "drop a dime." Man, he dropped a dime on me. I mean, you and I probably know what that means. I know what it means.
Drop a dime on me.
Yeah.
We didn't use that. Is it he dropped a dime on me? I told on me, or
yeah. Exactly. Ratted you out.
Yeah.
Dropped a dime in the payphone and told somebody about it.
But we didn't
dropped a dime,
Yeah.
And that was pretty old No, not super old, but it was pretty old when I was a kid, when telephone calls were a dime
Right.
on a payphone. But yeah, it just stuff like that. People wouldn't even, or say, give me the 411 on that, man. Because who calls 411? Does anybody even know what 411 is anymore? That was,
Information.
yeah, it was directory assistance.
Yeah.
You called up and you said, what's the phone number to this place or this person? And they looked it up on their computers
And you got
and they
charged.
gave you the number. It used to be free. Then they started charging people for it. So, but yeah.
Crazy. Well, I'll tell you, we have a show every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, and you can catch us here on YouTube. Our channel is called Trampled Underfoot Podcast, the YouTube channel, and we also have a website. And on that website, you can catch our past episodes. You can press that Wayback Machine, and we do have a lot of awesome content, actually. But I would say that because I'm part of the show. Just the same, we are sponsored by
Harneal Media. Let's see how fast Steve is and how quick he gets his link out there. We made him a moderator for this. No pressure, Steve. Harneal Media for all your website needs, whether you know you have them or not. If you want to set up a complete website, Steve's your guy. If you just want to set up a web store, maybe you want to sell merchandise, maybe you want to, I don't know, set up an Amazon shop or something like that. He can help you out, and priced accordingly, personalized service. Harnealmedia.com. He'll get it out there. We also have a Facebook page. Go on over to Facebook and look up Trampled Underfoot Podcast. We have all kinds of interesting things over there. Whenever Eloy and I talk about something that is linkable here in the podcast, we'll go over there to Facebook and we'll post a link to it so you can check it out yourself. If it's a picture, we'll post the picture. If it's a video, like the Getting Dressed series that I was talking about, as soon as this show is over, I'll go over and I'll post a couple of those videos over there for you to check out. Really interesting stuff. We put them over there on our Facebook page, Trampled Underfoot Podcast on Facebook.
That was wonderful. I couldn't have said it better myself.
You probably could have, because I stumbled a couple of times.
Well, the first rule of Fight Club is to not talk about Fight Club, and you just said you messed up, and I wouldn't have known the difference. Have you seen Fight Club, actually?
Nope. I'm a cultural infidel. Never seen it.
Dude, Fight Club is fat.
Is it?
It's lit.
Good. Is it lit? Okay,
it's
good.
Lit, man.
So they're all drunk. Every one of them.
I'm dropping a dime on it so you can hear, so you know about it. It's Fight Club.
Faux shizzle?
My nizzle.
And guys, on that happy note,
yeah, be safe, folks. Try not to rub up against people, at least not in the stores.
Yeah,
and we'll catch you next week.
Take care, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us.